Hi, I'm Lily Stitches.
And I'm Vonka Romanov.
You're listening to the Scene World Podcast.
It's the Scene World Podcast. My name is being AJ. Joerg is sitting over there. How's it going?
Hello, AJ. Hello, listeners.
In a minute, we're going to be talking to Stefano Arnhold. He is the chairman of Tectoy. They are a Brazilian toy manufacturing company, and they make the Sega Master System. And they're going to be coming out with a Sega Genesis for those of us that live in the U.S. and Mega Drive for everybody else. Interesting bit of trivia. I just recently found out that on Facebook, if someone types like in German, if they read a message in German and they say Sega Mega Drive, when you translate it, it translates to Sega Genesis, which is kind of interesting and obscure, but cool, I suppose.
Yes, it's the same like when you translate Tetris into Chinese, you get colorful blocks.
Oh, really?
Yes, so Google and Bing, which is used on Facebook, and Google Translate, which is used on other services, actually are clever enough to even translate the official names of things in other countries.
Sweet giblets. Nice.
You didn't know that? Okay, I did.
I did not know that. That's things that I'm discovering. Okay, so that's coming up in a minute. In the meantime, things are happening, such as...
Well, for example, we have now our newsletter. Hey. So if you wanna have the news in a newsletter in your emails every couple of weeks, then you can go to our homepage, sceneworld.org, and click on the very right corner, and there next to the Google Plus icon, you have this newsletter icon, and you can click on it, and then you can fill in your email address. And this was done because some people asked us if we don't have a newsletter because they prefer having it all in one place than going to Facebook, Twitter, all those sorts of things. So actually you get an email every couple of weeks that resembles our blog posts. So you get that all in your email address.
It essentially just aggregates a lot of the news that we would have on the website and sends it right to your email, but not every day, not necessarily every week, every couple of weeks, so we're not spamming you every 3 seconds with stuff that's going on.
Exactly, yes.
Because no one likes that.
Well, we try to listen to our readers and to our listeners. So after having, since a year, the magazine running in a JavaScript emulation version of Vice, now we finally have a newsletter. So we try to improve, even if it takes a while.
Yeah. I've got no news. I've been talking the last few podcasts about the SidFX because it came out, it sold, it was awesome. I got mine. I've been playing with it for a couple of weeks now. I'm still working on a video review for it. I'm awaiting some parts before I finish that up. It's a really cool unit, and they've finished selling the original pre-orders. I guess they've hit the orders that were on the waiting list, and they still have some left. So right now they are selling the last units from the reserve. So if you didn't get one, and if you want to get one, then go to sidfx.dk, and it is a really cool thing. If not, even if you don't use it for, like the dual SID thing, it still gives you the ability to have both a 6581 and an 8580 in your machine and dynamically switch between them depending on what the music is calling for, which is a really cool feature. But it also has, stereo SID capabilities. And the thing I like the most is to have it on mono, but to have each SID playing. So like your left speaker is like your 6581 and the right speaker is the 8580, and they're playing the same thing, but you can hear the difference between the two, and they complement each other in a lot of songs. It's actually a really cool feature that I don't think anything else does.
Great.
And they're ridiculously inexpensive for what it is, and for the work that went into them, and the talent in creating them. And they're only like $70, 50 something euros, which is really, I mean, that's pretty reasonable, I think. So
yeah, well, I have to say, I'm really waiting to put in mine.
He still hasn't put it in yet.
Yeah, because now friends of mine suggested that I get a different thing, a Keyman, I think it's called, where you can actually program your keyboard with commands, hotkeys, so I actually don't need to drill holes for the switches.
Right.
Into my red limited edition Kickstarter
case. You know what I've seen a lot of people do, actually, is just run the switches out one of the ports in the back and just have them kind of sitting there.
Yes, but then I prefer something that is more stable.
What about the audio? Because it comes with a mini like a headphone port. That's what I've been using, and it actually cleans the sound up quite a bit, and it makes it way better to do. I guess. What are you using? You're using a Reloaded, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say, because if you were using the real thing, I would take out like the RF box and just use that hole. But the Reloaded, I think, uses that hole for something.
Yes, it uses the hole for. It has a headphone plug, and it has an AMS video.
Okay. Oh well, yeah. So you got the headphone plug built in, so you'd probably maybe not need words. So you might not even need to hook that up. I mean, you can even.
Of course, I need it for the second channel.
Yeah, you can. So you can plug it in and not even You could plug the thing in and just not even plug in any of the wires to it. So it's
yeah. What I'm actually planning to do is not using the switches, but having a second plug for the stereo. So I need it, but to have that hanging out.
Yeah.
But to have that hanging out and the switches would be a bit too much, you know.
Yeah.
Don't want to lose the portability of the system actually.
Right.
And if you move it a centimeter, you could, rip off the cables. Nah, that's... so I better wait till the end of February when all my friends figured it out, and I have the
end of February? Okay, so besides that, here's one for us. The Commodore Leo is out. I actually talked to Paolo Besser a couple of weeks ago. I asked him about it, and he said that it should be out in a couple of days, as far as, as long as nothing happened. And he was right, and it was out a couple of days. So the Leo is available now. You can find that at Commodore-CBM.com. It's also available for sale on Amazon. It goes for 249 euros, which is about 260 American US dollars, which is actually quite a bit less than the PET went for. So it's got that much going for it, that it's cheaper than the PET. As for specs, I'm looking at 5-inch display. It's got 16 gigs of memory, internal memory with a micro SD card up to 64 gigs. It's got 2 gigs of RAM, 16 megapixel camera, dual SIMs again. And aside from that, there's, a lot of it seems similar to the PET. It looks like it's a little bit more well-made. I have not seen anything so far comparing this to like a Chinese phone that it is, that it's ripping off. So
now the question is if it still has the magic and clickbait sites would try to get more info on it.
Exactly, right.
Not another phone.
Yeah, I haven't seen much at all actually about this phone anywhere. There were a couple of they were called reviews, but it was really just just sort of a list of this is what the phone will have, and not actually hands-on reviews. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone has got one yet. Aside from, I'm sure Paolo and Massimo have one. So I don't know. We don't.
Sweet unboxing video.
Yeah, we don't have one. So I can't do a review of it at the moment. But
we asked them.
Yeah, but
we'll
again,
see.
Commodore-cbm.com is where you can find out more information and buy one if you want to.
Or Amazon Germany.
Next, we got Retroblah, our good buddies from the last podcast that we did.
Yes, Senad Palic, who is also the press guy for Formers Only.
Mm-hmm.
He is also part of the Retropla crew. That is consisting of Sarah Schumacher and Sebastian Greiner, which we had pleasure to work with for the film and museum thing, film and games last year. And also Sven Fösting Retro Hunter is part of that crew, and they made a music video together with Martin Amann, who did the music. So it was pretty successful, and they had a lot of people in the scene waving, for example, AJ and me.
Well, we were supposed to be dancing, but I don't know if it came out as that.
But Rainer Kraphol's not so fluent dance move were perfectly synced to the music.
Yeah. Well, so were ours. We popped in for about a second or so each, and yes, that's our. Well, I don't know about Joerg, but it's my world debut in a music video.
Yes,
so.
Mine too.
So we'll put that in the podcast description. We'll maybe embed that video or throw a link to it or something so everyone can see that.
But it should be retropla.de anyway for the homepage.
And Joerg had to explain to me the background behind the video because I didn't really. I heard a video that seemed kind of funny and there were lots of people in it, but I didn't understand the background behind it. I don't know if we want to go into detail on that here.
Well, do we want to debunk the myth around the lyrics? And, well, it's not the lyrics. It's like words throwing at you. It's more like an insider. Do we want to keep it like an insider? I guess we do.
Okay,
right?
Sure.
Yeah. People can ask us in private.
Yeah. So that's that. I got one here. Slartibart Fast. He is a Douglas Adams character, but he's also a scener from Australia. He was a member of Onslaught and Lithium and Hokuto Force. He was a coder. He has started a new group on Facebook. It's a closed group, C64 Code Hacking. So search for that, and he'll be going over some. And he's also got a blog where he'll be disassembling some old pages and essentially putting up tutorials on how to code. He's also set up a Patreon for it. It's patreon.com/Slarty. We'll link to this stuff in the podcast description. So if you're interested in learning to code and want to learn from a guy that is a contemporary era scener, then that's where you might want to do that.
Great.
Yeah. So that's cool. I look forward to seeing what he comes out with that. Anything else? Okay, we got to have something else. So, speaking a little bit of the Sidfex earlier, we got some feedback from
this Vincent Ultimate main guy. And, of course, it's true that he cannot promise that the 8580 emulation is 99% correct.
Or which is what you were saying in the last podcast, that the emulation is almost perfect.
But that is what I read on certain pages, blogs and so on from other people using that. And so, of course, I didn't mean to say that it's that they promise it, that the creators promise it, that it's 199% correct. But it's sounding pretty close to the original. And also to mention, it also has some 6580 features in it. So even from the old set.
Okay.
But anyway, I wanted to make clear that there's no promise that it's sounding like 99.5% like the original 5880 Z chip. Thank you. Well, and next year we will also mark our 17 years of Scene World.
Ooh. Scene World can drive.
What does this mean? Can't drive?
Oh, in New Jersey, anywhere where I am, in New Jersey, New York, the driving age is 17.
Ah,
you get your driver's license at 17, and then
I thought it's 16. No,
you get a learner's permit at 16, so you can drive with someone else in the car. But you get your actual license where you can drive by yourself at 17. Then you can drink at 21.
Interesting.
So we're not quite up to there. SeaWorld can't drink yet, and it can't vote, but it can drive a car.
Depends on which country you are in.
Yeah.
In Germany, you can drink with 18.
Yeah, well, that's because Germany isn't as crazy as most places. It's like that, or there is no drinking age because there's places where 6-year-olds are having a glass of wine with dinner. We're so focused on prohibition of anything good here in the U.S. that we gotta keep that 21-year-old.
Yes. Well, so any other news?
I think that's it for this time. So let's hop over to the interview. Stefano is there waiting for us. We had a couple of mild technical issues in the beginning of it, but we sorted it out. So let's pop over there and talk to him.
So welcome to the podcast, Stefano. Thanks for taking the time. Sorry for the delay.
Nope.
Okay, so you are chairman of Tectoy, and you are one of the first employees of Tectoy, right?
Correct.
Okay. So let's first start a bit with how did you actually get involved with Tectoy and how you started to get involved with the video game industry in Brazil?
Well, I started to get involved in video games in the end of the 70s. I think my first visit to Nintendo was, I don't remember well, 79 or 80 or 81, when I was trying to build here in Brazil Game & Watch. They did not have yet the Super NES, the 8-bit system. And then I was hired by Sharp when we were trying to bring Atari to Brazil. And then we lost Atari to a local company called Gradiente, and we introduced Intellivision from Mattel. And so I got involved in video games. And then I was working here at Sharp when the founder of Tectoy, he left Sharp to build another company, which was called Alsys, which is a company who used to design dedicated electronic solutions for companies which in the 80s were not so keen in electronics. So we designed ASICs and those kinds of stuff for them. The first one we did was for Whirlpool, for a washing machine from them. And studying each of the business segments which needed more help in electronics, we found toys in Brazil. We had Estrela here, who had 50 years and was 55% of the market share, and they really did not love electronics at all. In fact, they hated it. So instead of helping them, they decided to create Tectoy. When this gentleman left Sharp to go to this other company, I wanted to leave also, but he did not let me leave the Sharp. So I was not, when Tectoy was grounded, I was not there. I was not on board. I came like 15 minutes after. So Tectoy started in September 87, and I started officially working in December. But basically, since then, I am with the company.
Interesting. And Tectoy is actually known for having the Sega license in Brazil, and you are still releasing new Master Systems and new Mega Drives, which is called Genesis in the USA. For example, next year you are releasing in June, I believe, a new limited edition Mega Drive. Why is that? Why do you still do re-releases of old video game consoles?
Well, next year we are going to have our 30th anniversary, And it will also be the 30th anniversary of our relationship with Sega. So there are not many countries in the world, I think none except outside Japan, who has a steady relationship with Sega for so many years. So we wanted to do something special, and we started a little bit in Facebook, looking, our idea was to release the original Master System. But we started to do some research on Facebook, and the first post was, we had an incredible response. I think was like 180,000 likes and sharings and something like that. The numbers were ridiculous high. And the people basically told us, no, we prefer Mega Drive. So we decided to relaunch the original Mega Drive, trying to be as close as possible to the original product we had launched here in '89.
Which is kind of interesting because you said it's as close as the original, but you also added new features like an SD card reader. So the gamers actually can read the ROM files next to the cartridges. So you also improved kind of the system.
We improved some things. Some are easy to understand. First, you have the cartridge slot. So you will be able to use most of your cartridges, not all of them. There are some cartridges which are not going to work at all. Some add-ons like power base converter and those things will also not work. And in some games, you might have a small glitch, right? We are still working on the hardware, so we are fixing some bugs. But it is today cheaper to bring the built-in softwares in a SD card than in a memory, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons, because we have to amortize the costs of all the tooling and all the development in very small quantities, we believe. So we try to be as lean as possible with costs so that we can bring the final product to the end consumer at a reasonable price. And we are not sure we are going to make money, but that's more a commemorative edition than a business.
And we see this a lot with a lot of different companies. Like Nintendo just put out the NES Classic, the mini one, and it's as far as I know, it's doing really well. And so this is kind of almost the same sort of theme that a lot of companies are doing now with putting this out. But so how do you handle the compatibility? Is it an emulation issue? Is it like an FPGA thing? Like how is it designed to work with the old stuff?
It's not an emulation. It is, we are trying to reproduce the original hardware, right? Mm-hmm. But for instance, if you go to, I'm not an engineer, so I won't be able to give you precise answers. But I know, for instance, that Yamaha did a great job with the sound processors at the time, which are not available anymore. So probably will not get the level and the quality of sound that we had when we were using their processors, right? And some of the compatibility issues we are having is because the hardware is different, right? So we are testing a lot of games, right? Mm-hmm. And we are also making sure we have the licenses for all the games, right? Which is another huge issue. Right. So we're having to drop a lot of games because we cannot get the licenses anymore. There is even one game which we probably will have to drop from the list. I know the creator of the game personally because he's a friend of mine, but I don't think he has the rights anymore. So it's an adventure. I think we have here two adventures: build hardware and get licenses. I consider myself a person that knows licenses for 16 bits in Brazil pretty well, because I have done this myself for, 30 years now, right? And we have launched more than 1,000 titles here between 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit and 128-bit and so on. All of them fully licensed. In some cases, we had like 8 licenses in one sole game. And it's an adventure. So the number of cartridges that we are going to sell separately will be restricted to, 2, 3, which I think we will be able to have both things, the compatibility and the licenses.
I have actually 2 questions about that. One question is, are you aware that the games that were only released by Tectoy for the Brazilian market are really a hot item on the international market? So on eBay, you get like triple the price you normally pay in Brazil when selling to outside of Brazil. So it's a hot collector item. All your exclusive title games and your consoles, really collectors over here outside of Brazil, they want them, and they are willing to pay almost any price to get them. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I am. The other day they showed me in eBay, like Mônica no Castelo do Dragão, for Master System being sold, I don't know, it was ridiculous. I don't even remember the number, but it was a huge number. In reais, it was really a big fortune. So this is quite interesting to know that there are collectors around the globe who really love those products.
And have you ever considered to actually ship things abroad to widen your business?
No, I don't think we are going to be able to do it because we don't have the rights outside our territory. I might ask Sega to check if we can maybe on a one-by-one basis be able to supply it to collectors or something like this, which are not going to resell it, But at this moment, we did not do it. We don't have those rights yet, and we have not spoken with them about those issues. We are still clearing other more, priority items in engineering and licenses. But at this moment, we don't have rights outside Brazil.
That's interesting because in our past podcast, we also spoke to 3D Rams, who did Duke Nukem. And Tectoy also did a special version of Duke Nukem, a conversion for the Mega Drive. And actually last year, it was in the news that Tectoy gave the license to a shop in USA to reproduce the game and translate the manuals and so on in English.
No, we were a little bit surprised when we saw the product, but I had a look the other day on our agreement at the time, and it was considered a work for hire, which means that the code and everything we wrote would belong to the licensor. And so it's correct. They own the code we have written, right? So they can license to whoever they feel they want to do it. It belongs to them. So what they did is perfectly correct. So this is correct. I was only surprised that to find out that this product was actually released by a company.
But this new Mega Drive is not the only thing you did. I have the Mega Drive 4 Guitar Idol from 2010, where you actually did like Guitar Hero for the Mega Drive. So it's not your first adventure into re-releasing the Mega Drive.
No, a big difference between Brazil and other countries was that Sega, they would introduce 8-bit and they would discontinue 8-bit not immediately after, but short after they would introduce 16-bit. And once they had 32-bit, shortly after they would discontinue 16-bit and so on. And we never discontinued let's say, the one but last generation, because here in Brazil we had markets for the lower priced items, right? So even if we were selling, let's say, Dreamcast, there was a market for lower age kids and for lower income segments, which would love to buy the Master System or the Mega Drive. So that's why we are producing Master System till today. What happened one moment was that the end consumer did not recognize anymore the difference between 16-bit and 8-bit, which was something obvious in the past. So the consumer said, why should I pay more for a 16-bit with less games than for Master System, who gives me more built-in games for a lower price? So it was nearly impossible to sell Mega Drive. And we did not want to discontinue Mega Drive, so we started inventing new things. And your Guitar Idol is one of those tentatives to try to give him a longer lifespan. And we really did. We really managed.
That's an interesting question, because you brought up, how things weren't discontinued like that in Brazil. And how was the Brazil gaming kind of scene? Because we've spoken to people from Peru, and it was a totally different realm than anything that we're familiar with. The way that they handled the games and the way that they would, the game crackers would pirate other people's pirated games, and they would have their little garage arcades for a little bit, and then they'd move on to something else. I'm just curious, how did it operate in Brazil? Was it similar to maybe like Europe or the U.S., where it wasn't so much? It was more kind of mainstream, I suppose.
Well, it was mainstream, but you had rising piracy of software, right? So Master System for us was not a big issue, because the cartridges had a gate array inside, so you could not just copy the ROMs, right? Which was not the case for the Nintendo 8-bits, and they suffered a lot. Well, we in the beginning also competed with 8-bit clones. It took a while until Nintendo manufactured here in Brazil through another company called Playtronic the real product, right? And so for us, it was very tough, because we had a Master System was more expensive to build than the Nintendo 8-bits. It was a more robust product. And of course, we had to pay all the legal fees for Sega, which the clones did not have to do, right? But we did a better job in the sense that we really supplied a better solution to the end consumer. So quickly we got like 80% of the market. So Brazil was one of the few markets where Sega 8-bits really sold 4 times more than all the clones together.
Like the old ad, Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, but So, and then when you come to the CDs, let's say, to PlayStation 1, piracy really rampaged, because Sony, it took them, I don't know, another decade to come to Brazil, right? So we suffered a lot because we were fighting the pirates here. Our Dreamcast, I think it was until July 2002 that they did, when they broke the code the first time, if I'm not mistaken. But when we were selling Sega Saturn, which was not a CD, it was a GD, if I remember well. So ours was a little bit more difficult to pirate, but we had a flood of pirated discs for PlayStation 1, which were really cheap, really, something like, I don't know, $1. And this was really tough, really. So we could not sell software anymore. That's why you saw our hardwares with a lot of built-in product, like 130 games.
Interesting. Okay, interesting. So this is why you put in the games like on a flash drive, so that you wouldn't have the piracy issue. I see.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. So we would like to give the consumer a very nice library with a very nice game value, right? With authentic product. So I mean, we were always a company. We have spent here millions and millions of dollars putting those copyright guys in jail. You know, we really, until we had to give up. So one day we just gave up and they took over. That's why we created, I don't know if you heard about Zibo, which was our product with Qualcomm, which was a patent of us, which was basically using Qualcomm technology. You had a kind of a video game and you have a cellular phone inside the console. And it was designed for the developing countries which had piracy issues, because you could download over air the software. And as you know, the Qualcomm technology is 100%, you cannot crack it, right? You can crack code, but you cannot crack the download, because it's built in the hardware, it's built in the software, it's built in the operational system, right? So this was a project that unfortunately did not succeed, but the idea was quite nice.
It's interesting. Yes, I have read about that. Yeah, it was like an online-based video game system. Yeah, right. Yeah,
it worked with a cell phone inside. It has a SIM card. It started to use a chipset before Snapdragon, right? And then even with the Snapdragon first generation, and the output was not what we wanted, and it would have been fantastic if we would have been using the newest generations of Snapdragon, but the project did not survive so long.
Too bad.
Yeah.
So maybe we can continue this conversation after we release the new Mega Drive, the 2017 one in June.
Yeah, why not?
If you like, yeah.
Yeah, can find out if we really succeeded in delivering to the end consumer the product we really want them to have, right? And then I can tell you how it went.
Yes, because we would like to keep an eye on how well our guests progressed in their plans, you know. So maybe that's an option, and hopefully next time without technical problems.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. And thank you very much for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Tectoy and the Sega products in Brazil.
Well,
thanks for taking the time. Totally
You're most
great.
welcome.
Yes.
So that was Stefano Arnhold, the chairman of Tectoy.
Perfect. Great. Finally, we got all the information that we always wanted to know about Tectoy, you know, all the myths, if they're really true, the rumors, if they are true, what's their strive of making new Mega Drives and Master Systems, and why they're coming out with a new Mega Drive next year, and how it all started. It's interesting, very interesting to hear.
Joerg's been really jazzed about this. He's been talking about this interview for a couple of weeks now. You have one of these things, right?
Yes, I have. I have the latest Mega Drive pre-ordered by a friend of mine, and I have the Mega Drive for Guitar Idol that was released in 2010.
Okay.
And I have the Master System Generation Blue that was released last year. So I got all those stuff. And also I got some cartridges like Woody Woodpecker that was only released in Brazil, and Duke Nukem 3D that was also only released on the Mega Drive in Brazil. And also the Master System version of Street Fighter 2 that was also exclusive for Tectoy. So Tectoy had a lot of exclusive titles.
They're kind of like they're almost like to Sega what Dream was to the 64.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's and I found it interesting how he was saying that they're not building this on emulation. This is they're trying to make it as authentic as it was, and we didn't really get into how they're doing that. But I'd be really interested to know, like what they're like, because he said like they're not like Yamaha doesn't make the sound chips anymore. So what are they using instead?
Well, he said in the interview they are still working out on the details, but he also said we will make a follow-up interview in June after it's been released. So we will find out about that in half a year.
Yeah, well, that should be interesting. I'm fascinated to know how this stuff works, because a lot of this is the Genesis in particular has quite a big following still here in the U.S. One of the places that I actually work, we have a Sega Genesis hooked up in the living room. So, I mean, it's still that and the SNES were really like the two big consoles from the 90s that are still very popular now. And it'd just be interesting to see how they do this, and if this is potentially a way to open up, new markets and whatnot. Like with Nintendo came out with the Mini.
NES Classic Mini.
The Classic Mini. This could be kind of almost a prompt for Sega to, hey, step up your game and join up with this and start doing something. Here's a blueprint. Tectoy's done it already. Get off your butts.
Actually, Sega announced they are going to release something similar next year, and you can already pre-order it in Amazon, and you already did. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I get for missing staff briefings.
We are not having any. And you can actually interesting is Amazon.com is offering a customs-free delivery to Germany.
Oh, nice.
So they made this specially for Europeans. So
which I would assume means that they're all in PAL. They're all PAL machines.
No, NTSC America. Amazon.com is NTSC, right? Okay.
Wow. Well, because I noticed the Tectoy Genesis, their PAL. It was in.
What you mean? You mean the one from Tectoy?
Yeah.
No, actually, the new Mega Drive from Tectoy will use PAL M, which is a mix of NTSC and PAL, and that it works this way: that the screen sync is actually American, because, well, that is how television was introduced, but it was only black and white. So Philips, which is a Dutch company, introduced color into Brazil, and this is why Brazil is the only country in the world that has PAL M, which means it's in American NTSC screen sync, signal sync, but the European color scheme is used.
Okay.
So that means if you hook it up to a TV that cannot do PAL M, it will only play it in NTSC black and white.
Yeah. All right. So if you want to learn more about Tectoy and what they're doing and the products that they'll be offering, the Sega Mega Drive Limited Edition, or they also have the Sega Master System Evolution. It's blue. If you want to check that out, that's at www.tectoy.com.br. And that's Tectoy, Tectoy. And it's in Brazilian, but you don't really need to. It's in Portuguese.
It's not a language.
Thank you, Dr. Science.
Do it again.
It's in Portuguese, so but you don't really need to. I can't speak Portuguese, and I can understand enough about this to see what I'm looking at. So
translate.
Yeah, so check that out. Everything else, where to find us, sceneworld.org, youtube.sceneworld.org, all these different things that we do. I'm not even going to go into the list. It's in the description below. Check it out.
Instagram.com steamworld64.
Yeah, stuff like that. We've got some good podcasts coming up. Not going to say what they are, but we actually know that we have some good ones coming up. So that's a nice change from how we normally do it. So stay tuned. We will see you guys soon. And catch you later.